Horn's operator records telling us the story of her after escaping from the Dublin. And currently on guerrilla warfare with the few remaining soldiers on her side. Fighting the Sarkaz and Dublin forces in Londinium. In their hideout, Horn can be seen writing a memorandum to gather her thoughts. Her past experiences like becoming Dublin's prisoner, witnessing her comrades die and tortured, as well as hiding in the dark bowels of the city for a long time, have slowly affected her mental. But she must stay strong to fight the invaders of Victoria. On the first page of her memorandum, she wrote the codenames of her teammates that died during episode 9, and also wrote other soldiers' names to not forget their sacrifices. Horn then began to remember the time when she was held captive by the Dublin. She didn't get killed by Mandragora back in Hillock County, but was captured. And because of Horn's noble background and military ranks, Harmony suggests that Mandragora should bring along Horn to Londinium, as she could be useful to buy the support of some nobles, and telling lies that the daughter of the White Wolf Count has defected to the Dublin. One day, Mandragora's team along with Horn are ready to enter Londinium. Horn is allowed a little more freedom by the Dublin. They removes the cuffs on her hand, and telling her to see the tall Londinium wall. That despite its mighty appearance, it can't prevent the invaders. Shortly, a female Londoners approaches the Dublin soldiers and Horn. She and few other lucky citizens manage to escape from the city, and she asks them about the nearest settlement. The Dublins refuse to tell anything to the lady. But Horn asks her about the current situation in the city and its soldiers. The lady said the Sarkaz have taken full control of the city, and not even one Londinium soldiers are there to protect the civilians. Then when Horn asks about the city perimeter and the noble forces that are on standby, she answered she doesn't know, and mentioned the White Wolf Count, implying that this lady recognizes Horn. The lady seems to hold the White Wolf in high regards, believing he's working with other nobles to settle the Victorian crisis. But Horn said she wagered that the White Wolf doesn't plan to work with other nobility, as he cares more about his homeland, and less about who the throne belongs to. And before the lady leaves, she shakes hands with Horn, and secretly handed over a small blade to her, and tells Horn to see her daughter who lives in the city wharf, if they are going inside. After she leaves, Horn realizes she is the messenger of Count Mornings, a Victorian Grand Duke's squire. Sometime later, Mandragora visits Horn after meeting with some nobles' messenger, taunting her, saying that her optimism to fight for Victoria is meaningless, and she is the cause of the deaths of her underlings. But Horn pays the cat no mind, and says before she dies, she will make sure to kill Mandragora first. Sometime later, Mandragora's group and Horn are now in a factory complex. The Dublin are using the factory to supply their needs, and Mandragora is preparing to meet Teresis, while Horn is held captive in a makeshift prison. She then pretends to lose her mind by talking to herself, to make the Dublin loosen their watchful eyes on her. When a Dublin soldier goes to check on her, he realizes that Horn has opened her cell's air ventilation. Believing she vented, the soldier opens her prison cell door. But then Horn, who was hiding in the corner, strikes the soldier. She grabs the soldier's comms terminal and rapier. Horn then uses this chance to escape via the window. The Dublin soldier from before was about to attack her with his explosion arts, but instead he got caught in his own blast. Back to Horn, she managed to get out from the prison, and now she must find a way to escape this facility. Along the way, she feels someone's presence, secretly watching her. But she keeps moving and eventually arrived at an old factory. And the factory's entrance is miraculously open. And there exists the scent of originium arts around it. She's sure someone is helping her. She began to ask if someone was there, but there's no one answering. Then some Dublin soldiers who already knew Horn is escaping, went inside to the factory. Time is running out, she must find a way out as soon as possible. Suddenly, she heard the sound of the gateway slowly creaking open coming from below. The mysterious stranger, who is later revealed to be Misery, is helping her again. She's creeping along the shadows to the gate to escape, while avoiding the Dublinn. But then she sees Mandragora entering the factory. Mandragora didn't notice Horn, but their distance are close. Horn clutches her rapier tightly. She really wanted to end Mandragora's life. But in the end, she didn't do it, as now is not the right time for revenge. Back in the present, Horn writes in her notes how often she had a dream of those Victorian soldiers who were murdered and tortured. And she dreamt of taking her revenge on Mandragora that day. She wonders how things will turn out if she did stab Mandragora, and whether she will feel freed or not. Or maybe if she did try to stab Mandragora, she probably the one ended up dead. But she stops herself from writing even further. She must not let her emotion takes over. Then a fellow Victorian soldier approaches Horn. Both shares a conversation and the soldier reminisce a little about the past. The soldier knows Horn has injured a lot, so he is willing to stand guard, while Horn gets some rest. Now moving to Jessica's operator records. It tells us the story of when Jessica is relatively new to Black Steel. We also know more about her background. Her surname is Brenly, and she is the youngest daughter of the CEO of Raytheon Industries, a famous company known for being one of the main producer of weapons and gears used throughout Terra, and widely involved in robotics. As the children of Raytheon CEO, Jessica and her older brother and sister study mechanical design. But unlike her siblings, Jessica is not as talented and dedicated as them. Not to mention her social skill is rather poor. But luckily her family is very supportive. And 2 years ago, Jessica mustered the strength to talk to her father. She wants to broaden her horizons and find what she's capable of in life. So she decided to join Black Steel PMC as a mercenary. Although her family already selected a school and even planned out a job after her graduation. But Jessica's father supports her daughter's wish, although he still wants his daughter to take less hardship. So if Jessica haven't found what she seeks in Black Steel, he wants her to return home. Later, it is revealed despite Jessica lacking in physical prowess, she narrowly passed the recruitment exam that fails out nearly 80% of the recruits, and eventually became a Black Steel mercenary, although most of the time she works as an equipment tester. Jessica is actually a capable operator, and her mistakes are considered normal for a new recruit. But because of her insecurity, she always feels she never done any good job. One day, her father thinks she could have done a better job working in Raytheon. So her father wanted Jessica to resign from Black Steel and go home. Jessica couldn't help but accept her father's request to resign from her job, although she's still in doubt whether it's the right decision. So then Jessica finishes her last job at Black Steel, and then off to the HR department to finish her resignation application. On her way, she meets a Raytheon Industries representative, Mr. Raymond, who is here to talk some business with Black Steel senior manager. And on her father's request, he will accompany Jessica going back home. Raymond then talks to Jessica about how working in Raytheon suit her better. Besides, it's her family business. And Jessica's father have a good intention, as he doesn't want his children to suffer. After all, working as a mercenary is certainly dangerous, even if it's something like Black Steel that has top of the line equipment. Jessica then says she hasn't finalized her resignation process and would like to say goodbye to her friends first. So then Jessica leaves the room, but heads to the outdoor training facility instead. Jessica is still in doubt whether to resign from Black Steel or not. She haven't experienced much during her time in Black Steel, but she has already packing her bags, so guess it's really her time to leave. But suddenly, Luscam comes in and startled Jessica. To Jessica's surprise, Luscam is here to ask Jessica to become her deputy in Black Steel's BPRS division. After talking with Jessica's instructor Joseph Ayland and saw her files, Liscam thinks Jessica will become a good deputy. Liscam also learns that Jessica will resign from Black Steel because she feels she hasn't done a good job. So Liscam wanted to see the cat combat ability. Both then have a combat practice. Liscam manages to block Jessica's bullet, and Jessica manages to dodge Liscam's attack. But the cat was eventually knocked down with Liscam electric arts. After that, Liscam thinks Jessica's combat ability is good enough. She's just not yet experienced many combat situations. As long as Jessica keep learning and work harder, she can become a top tier mercenary, even if her progress takes a little longer. And so Jessica decided to stay in Black Steel and become Liscam's deputy. Then Raymond, who is revealed to have heard their conversation, approaches the duo. Jessica tells him her decision is to stay at Black Steel no matter what, and asks Raymond to tell her father that she wants to stay working as a mercenary to protect people, and also broaden her experiences and find out her possibilities. Raymond understands Jessica's decision, and will surely let her father know, which later her father also respects Jessica's decision to become a challenger. Then moving to Cutter's operator accord. Cutter is also a mercenary, but she's not working for a PMC. So her mercenary life is much more dangerous than Jessica. Her operator accord is titled MRE. And according to her, mercs are just like MRE. Can be used right away, high efficiency, low risk, and disposable. We see Cutter in the Rhodes Island cafeteria. She asks around Rhodes Island Master Chef if she can help them with anything. But everyone says they have already finished cooking, and offered her to eat their specialty instead. Cutter left the cafeteria with her stomach full, but feel disappointed as she can't help with the cooking. After she leaves, Sidroka comes into the kitchen and asks whether the chefs need a hand. Turns out there's a lot of work in the kitchen and the chefs could use some help. The reason why they don't want Cutter to help is because she made quite a mess in the kitchen last time. From chopping the cutting board in half, and even starts a fire in the kitchen. Even logistics department operators are thinking to put a Cutter is not allowed in here sign next to the K is not allowed sign. Hearing that, Sidroka decided to find and teach Cutter some basic cooking skill. Later, Sidroka teaches Cutter how to cook. And holy cow, she's really bad at it. She almost burned a hole through the pot. And numerous potatoes are gutted in a horrific way. Sidroka then asks why Cutter wants to cook so much. Cutter said she wants to cook because she almost never had anything but MREs during her time working as a merc. So she wants to try eating something she made with her own hands if she can. Hearing that, Sidroka, who is also a mercenary, that probably lucky enough to enjoy homemade cooking, promises to teach her how to cook no matter what. After several massacres of potatoes later, Sidroka goes to get some potatoes again. Cutter then feels tired and falls asleep at the chair. She dreamt of her times before joining Rhodes Island. She with the other two mercs were transporting a cargo. Her current job transporting the cargo surprisingly pays a big amount of money. It's kinda suspicious, but she and the others still take the job. And will collect the money once they arrive at the destination. Sometime later, Cutter's group were ambushed by other mercenary group. One of her companions died, and the other loses his cool and opens the cargo they were transporting. As he expected, the cargo is empty. The cargo is just bait, and the money they were promised is actually a bounty for their heads. It's unknown what happens next, but Cutter manages to escape and eventually joined Rhodes Island. Time skipped a month after Sidroka's first cooking class. Cutter shows her cooking skill, and she did make a satisfying dish without making a mess in the kitchen. Right now she can only make one kind of dish, but it's start. Next up, Warfarin's second operator accord. Telling us more about Warfarin and how she joined Rhodes Island. In Rhodes Island landship, One day before Amiya's group leaves for Londinium, Supreme Leader Amiya receives a physical examination from Warfarin. Warfarin said Amiya's condition is normal and stable, but she advises her not to take her rings off if she can. Warfarin says that Amiya also got taller. Amiya was only as tall as Warfarin's elbow around 4 years ago, but soon enough she will be much taller than Warfarin. Warfarin also complains how it's been 100 years since she last got any taller. Amiya then asks whether Warfarin is angry that she will go to Londinium. Warfarin does not angry, she knows Amiya is destined to fight this fight. Then Warfarin tells Amiya about the reason why she becomes a doctor. Warfarin is a vampire sarcas. It has become the vampire social norm to thirst for blood and war. So a vampire becoming an engineer and even a doctor is considered weird. The vampires also born with extraordinary arts, so most of them choose a path of war. Warfarin also has at least 10 years of combat experience. But Warfarin got tired of war and reject the vampire social norm, and eventually become a famous medical researcher, under the pen name Mr. Blood. She then tells Amiya how she acquainted with Kelsey. Warfarin shows Amiya some old magazines from decades ago that she wrote, consisting of some medical theories. She said one day, Kelsey wrote a long article to pointed out issues in Warfarin's theory. Because of Kelsey, Warfarin medical theories and experiment gave a better results. But after that, Kelsey is never heard again, which kinda irritates Warfarin. And then Warfarin tells the story of how she met Kelsey and Amiya in person. Around year 1094 in Casdell border town. Warfarin lives on the outskirt of the town doing some medical research and offering medical treatment to the locals, or to anyone as long as they're not involved in a war. Specifically in the Casdell civil war between the Sarkaz King Teresa and General Teresis. But because Warfarin is a famous doctor, Sarkaz royal court have always tried to summon her. Warfarin doesn't want to take any part in war, so she kicked out anyone who are trying to persuade her to join. But one day, Kelsey came knocking at her door with young Amiya in tow. Kelsey wanted Warfarin to check on Amiya's condition, as Kelsey herself is currently busy taking care of things in Rhodes Island. But because Kelsey is working for Teresa, and Teresa is fighting a war, Warfarin refused to help them. But then Kelsey said that Teresa is dead, and Amiya is the new king of Sarkaz. Hearing that, and perhaps because Amiya is just an innocent girl, Warfarin agrees to check Amiya's condition. With that, Kelsey leave Amiya in Warfarin's care for some time. Rhodes Island command has fallen into chaos after losing both Teresa and the doctor. And there are plenty of eyes spying on them too. So it's best Amiya stay away from the land ship for a while Kelsey take charge and maintain order. Sometime later, Kelsey is back to see Warfarin and Amiya. Physically, Amiya is fine, but her mental condition is tricky. Most likely because she inherited the Sarkaz King power, unconsciously reads the emotions of others, and has trouble controlling her new powers. Warfarin thinks Teresa is cruel for picking a fragile girl to become her successor, and even thinking that letting Amiya die painlessly in her sleep is better than the pain and hardship she is destined to suffer as a king. Kelsey said that Amiya becoming a Sarkaz king is not something she wishes either, and as a doctor herself, she doesn't want to see another life disappear. Warfarin taunts Kelsey for calling herself a doctor, because in Warfarin's eyes, she's not only a doctor, but a conspirator, a cold-blooded puppet master, and an accessory to war. Kelsey didn't deny it, but also said Warfarin's inaction won't save anyone from escaping the war. Hearing that, Warfarin went silent for a while, and then say Kelsey is just trying to rope her in, and she will never join Teresa's group, or what's left of it. Kelsey then says Teresa has other goals than just uniting the Sarkaz, and that includes curing oropathy, which surprised Warfarin. But in the end, she still doesn't want to come with Kelsey. But alas, sometime later, Kelsey kinda forced Warfarin to join Rhodes Island, saying to the Rhodes Islander that the vampire doctor will join, and even have Monster invite to bring Warfarin to Rhodes Island. And after seeing that Rhodes Island is really wanted to cure oropathy, Warfarin joins Rhodes Island, reluctantly, and build the foundation of medical department with Kelsey and the other, and become the overseer of Rhodes Island Blood Bank. Back to the present. Hearing Warfarin's story of how she doesn't really want to join, and Rhodes Island involved in Victorian crisis might not align with her goal, Amir asks if Warfarin will leave Rhodes Island, which Warfarin answered, she will not. If she really hates war, she should have strived to end the war herself, like what Amir did. Not just hiding and avoiding anyone involved in war, like what she did before. It's also revealed that Warfarin once had a choice, or was asked to become an elite operator, but she didn't become one. Warfarin knows there will come a day Amir's path will be devastated by war. But as long as Kelsey and Amir haven't abandoned their goal to overcome oropathy, she will stay at Rhodes Island, treating its patients. And while she has a whole ship full of patients to care for, but Amir will always be her first patient. She is willing to die on this path. And this is her gift to Amir. Lastly, we have Madame Ceylon's operator record. In her operator record, Ceylon is still a freshman at Victorian National University. Siesta event is not happening yet, so the story should occur in 1092. She attends this university to study originium research. And one of her motivations to study in that field is to cure oropathy. Especially to cure someone who she regards as a sister. But finding a cure for a disease that is considered incurable will be very difficult even for a famous scientist and doctor. Ceylon knows this well. Even in a letter that she's going to send back home, she expressed her frustration. What if she exhausts all the knowledge here, but still can't find an answer for the cure? But in the end, Ceylon decided to discard the letter. Moving on, for someone who spends most of her life in Siesta, Ceylon looks more Victorian than a Victorian. Anyway, it's been a few months since she entered the university. And apparently it's almost time for Christmas break. So Ceylon decided to check the commercial district to buy gifts for family back home. And she unexpectedly meets with her classmate Rins. And Ceylon asks Rins if they can window shopping together. Although Ceylon is nice to her, but Rins is seen quite annoyed with Ceylon. Even occasionally throws in sarcasm. But either Ceylon didn't realize it, or she is just the embodiment of goodness. And in the end, Rins also comes with Ceylon to buy some presents. Then Ceylon is at a chocolate shop with Rins. Not only she's buying stuff for her family, but also for her friends in the university, including Rins. Rins is quite surprised. Especially Ceylon going to buy a present for a student named Vivian. That according to Rins, both are on each other's throat. But Ceylon said they were just simply arguing over some theories. According to her, people should have a different viewpoints and share perspective. And that is also the reason why she left home, to study in Victoria. To see other people's answers to cure oropathy. Hearing Ceylon wanted to cure oropathy, Rins is even more surprised. Then to go to see other shops. Rins is surprised yet again, knowing how many items Ceylon purchased. And how many times she hire an international messenger to send a letter and postcard. Wow, this girl's rich. Then they are at a homeware store, where Rins is going to buy an automatic teapot. And it's unexpectedly a present for Ceylon. Rins says this is an apology gift. She then tells how she feels ashamed of herself whenever she sees Ceylon. Ceylon works hard to study originium research. While she considered herself a lazy person, and not as talented as Ceylon. And said it's not only herself, but some other students also feel the same. Rins was also quite amazed at how Ceylon wanted to cure oropathy. As both of them are originium researcher, their chance to contract oropathy is quite high. And despite all of that, Rins views Ceylon as a role model. Ceylon understands, and says to pay it no mind. She's not that suited to become a role model. And both of them didn't know each other well, and no one did any bad thing. So there's no need for this apology gift. But turns out this apology gift is for something else. She said that the originium samples that they collected had a rare reaction. Rins was not confident to experiment with it even further on her own. But feel embarrassed if she's going to ask Ceylon about this. Even though she knew Ceylon will be much more interested in this sort of thing. Instead of getting mad, Ceylon grabs Rins's arm and both of them go to see that originium. Time skipped a few days after that, back in Siesta. Schwartz received a letter from Ceylon and tells her father Herman about it. The father-daughter relationship is quite distant. Even Herman won't be surprised if Ceylon didn't mention him at all. In the letter, Ceylon writes how she gets to know her classmates better. And get a lot of help from them than before. Also mentioned she realized how to break the code of oripathy. And perhaps one day, she can find the cure. Aside from that letter, Ceylon also mentioned a letter for her father. But it seems Ceylon forgot to attach the letter to the envelope. So Schwartz said Ceylon wished him a happy holiday, and looking forward to meeting him at Christmas. Well, that's all the operator records that were released in episode 10. We got a lot of interesting information in this batch. Tell me what you think. That should be all. Adios.
走れソリよ風のよ